Hello, I'm Wayward. The game is Mother Goo QuickScript mod. The map is World Tree. And the players, at the top right, as our blue goo, is Elfire. Got that second mama there, heading really aggressively down into the middle of the map. I think he's headed for this kind of goo farm area. And to the bottom left, as our human player, is Vorp. I think this is the first time I've actually cast a match with Vorp. Going a little crazy with those first couple factories. He's only on 2 refineries, and 5 factories, you can see, is overloading his economy a little bit. I think 3 or even 4 would be fine, but he's not doing himself any favors right out the gate. Elfire, as I said, or Elfire, I never remember, and I feel terrible about it. But anyway, like I said, he's gone down into the middle, grabbing those steam vents. That's, of course, what the goo care about. They like their mothers to consume these. Really aggressive, actually, coming down right into Vorp's territory. I think Elfire is going to attempt to... It looks like he's rushing with his Striders. Possibly going to patrol this moment. No, not at the moment. More Striders coming out. There's a little bit of a standoff here between this Trident and this Drover. Trident does not see the Drover as of yet. So we'll have to see what ends up happening. We have a third... That's a weird refinery replacement. Third extractor coming out. Those Striders are, of course, attacking this conduit cross. There we go. 2 of those factories go away. That makes sense. I like this backing up here with these extra conduit crosses to make sure that the power isn't lost again. We do have a heavy sentinel coming down. Second one, actually, as well. So this rush is going to be curbed pretty effectively. A third anti-heavy sentinel coming down as well. The Striders are actually proving to be more than enough for these turrets, but this triple conduit cross here means that it's going to be hard to take out. Striders were actually fairly hurt, possibly by an explosion of one of these harvesters. We do have more Striders coming down, but with the anti-heavy sentinel up, that's a pretty effective stop to this rush, at least for now. Second anti-heavy sentinel, some more conduit crosses for an effective defense. Elfire potentially gonna have to pull back and bide his time to do this some more. We have a little bit of patrolling there going on with this mama. We have a third mama coming out. Still really aggressive placement. Elfire wants to keep this contain on the human player. Killing this extractor would be a minor win, but there I think are enough tridents here to stop this from happening. Now trying for 5 factories again. So it's interesting that Vorp is using tridents. I think the conventional wisdom at this point is the revolver is basically always better. There's very few instances where you want to go with tridents over revolvers, as I recall. Right now, Elfire on 3 mothers, so he is expanding on the back of this harassment. This mother pulling back so it doesn't get taken out immediately. Elfire in a bit of a precarious situation, but doing okay. It feels like the goo are kind of always in a precarious situation, honestly. But yeah, Vorp held that pretty well. He's going for an air attachment. We'll have to see what happens with that. 3 anti-heavy sentinels at the moment. And Elfire right now doing okay, shuffling those mothers around, pulling back into a more defensive posture. I do want to take a moment to point out, I was called out on this before. This is not low res. I think I'm on kind of medium settings. It's just the terrain in this map. This is a player-made map. The terrain is kind of low res. It's just kind of what the players are working with right now. So none of the player-made maps look much better than this. So it does look a little ugly, but that's just how it goes for the player-made maps at this point. I think it was said that players are having don't know how to import new terrain textures or something. So this is just how the map looks. It looks like this for everybody. It's not just me. It's not just you. It's all of us. So we do actually have a monitor out, as well as a couple of Valiants, and we are mixing finally some revolvers into this trident ball. So let's take a quick look. We are getting contagious goo, so it looks like Elfire is planning on going for destructors. Sorry about that map wobble there. This Mother might be able to get away if it pulls up here. It does not, though. Massive drovers coming in. It's going to be hard to take out with that Valiant, but we do have this Mama coming in to help. That might be good. Wow. Right now, actually, I managed to not notice this before, but Elfire actually was up to 7 Mothers and still is at 6, which is way ahead of Vorp right now. If you look at the resources, you can see the tail. It's like 14,000 more. No, yeah, 4,000. Sorry. So significant amount of extra resources there for our new player. We have some Valiants out now as well, some additional Valiants. Tempest out. That's a bit of a weird choice considering how fraught Elfire's position is. Still relying on the massive Drover Ball to deal with these Tier 1 units. Let's take a quick look and see what else is going on. 2 artillery attachments. Interesting. That might be a bit of a mistake, potentially. We have some longbows out, and I'm not sure why. We're coming out, and I'm not sure why. It is potential that Vorp is going to try out the longbow artillery upgrade. We'll have to see. Let's take a quick look at our structures tab. A 5th refinery. So Vorp is keeping up pretty well with the refineries now. This Mother is in a very, very tricky spot. Interesting to me that Vorp is not covering this back door. He does have a monitor there, but manages to not see this drover and is not taking advantage of any of the harvesting that's not directly in the line of where Elfire is, trying to be. I don't know if this is just too low, if we've got a monitor. So we do have the monitor. Those Tempests are unfortunately not long for the world. The drovers are being chased back. We do have a Bastion out and some Destructors out for Elfire. This is going to change things around a bit. The Bastion, of course, forces units to attack it. We have this Mother being used as well. So really great stuff there from Elfire. The Destructors, and we do actually have some Crescents. So those longbows may be more useful than I was originally anticipating. These Destructors are going to be a pretty nasty addition, especially if the Contagious Goo is done, and it looks like it is. So yeah, we do have the longbow there shooting down the Crescent projectiles. Destructors overcommitting a little bit. I think one has gone down already. This one also very low on health. It's okay for now. But yeah, if these tier 3 units are going down, that's going to be pretty bad for Vorp. This Mama's going to try to escape. No, using it for combat, actually. Elfire down to 5 Mothers. It looks like he's able to get a bunch of extra ones right now. We'll see if he chooses to do that. Keep an eye on that Structures tab. This is one of the funniest Structures tabs in RTS to me. Technically, right now, Elfire has 8 total structures in the form of the Mother Goo, where our human player has 29 with all of these various turrets and anti-air sentinels and anti-heavy sentinels, and another refinery coming out in the worst location I think I've ever seen a refinery. It's just way out there in the middle of everything. finally, we have some harvesting going on back here with Vorp is actually harvesting out his south side. So yeah, Elfire recovering nicely. 8 mamas is a great place to be. We actually have one of them with full. Oh my god, we have a proto-purger coming out. It likely won't be finished, but if it is, that would be amazing. Of course, this is a nice big flat map, so the human player is able to bring his conduits way out into the middle, which I always love seeing. It looks like Vorp is committing really heavily to sentinels. I don't know if these are being teleported. Yeah, I think they're being teleported. At least some of them are. Elfire needs to be a little more careful with his crescent control. These things are getting way up close to the enemy, and that's just straight up dangerous. Some nice dancing, although of course the Grey Goo units. Oh no, the crescent is right there next to the anti-heavy sentinel. So this army is coming right out into the middle of Vorp's base, but Vorp has enough resources to actually kind of, you know, teleport his turrets around. So definitely dangerous for Elfire. His Destructor is getting kind of low on health. This one almost dead. It's still alive. Oh god, that was such a waste. That was painful to see. Actually, I of course missed some fighting up here where Elfire lost a bunch of his mothers again. Elfire with a smallish army here. I think this is enough to take on this army. Yeah, I love the Bastion in the Goo army. It's a really useful tool. This mother really should be used, there we go, to help fight. Meanwhile, we've got combat down here as well with this Bastion and these other assorted Goo units taking out some income, at least temporarily, for Vorp. And that army was held off. So, yeah, Elfire doing a really good job of fighting on multiple fronts. Vorp doing a tolerable job of keeping his territory under control. I think all the turrets were pulled back for now. And once he's got a little bit more resources, he can try to move them back out. Monitor keeping tabs on those Goo units. These as well. I don't think the Proto-Purger has been spotted yet. Take a quick look at the units tab. Army sizes pretty well in line with each other. We're getting some howitzers out for Vorp and a couple of daggers, which I always like seeing. It's a neat unit. There they are. There's one. Not a lot of frontline stuff going on here. The turrets are kind of serving potentially as a front line. This reminds me to take a look at the tech and upgrades. We have power generators. Anti-heavy sentinels remain active without a power connection. So that is clever. That helps, you know, these conduit crosses go down and the turrets are still okay. That seems useful in this context. Some pretty impressive conduit spread from Vorp. I do like seeing this expansive style for the human player. Back at 7 mothers, so that's pretty good for Elfire. Potentially seeing a couple more come out, possibly. I would love to see some more tech from both players. Tech is something that I feel is a little underutilized in competitive Grey Goo. Xset, with his quick script, was working on a version that automatically gave you certain techs just to kind of diversify the game. I'm not entirely sure what the status of that is at this point. Army coming out here, a weirdly high number of Valiants to me, as a non-expert on the game. Seems like a little too many, a few too many Valiants. We have some daggers mixed in, again, not a unit that you see too much of, and a longbow, and I'd love to see the longbow upgrade, the artillery upgrade, taking out a Mother. That's a bad loss for Elfire. This monitor doing a good job of keeping tabs on the other Mothers. We have a couple of Destructors and some Drovers coming out as a response. This should be enough to hold off this attack. Lost another one, down to 5 Mothers. This is typically, by the way, how I see Goo players like Elfire lose. Not saying that's going to happen now, but this sort of relentless hunting of Mothers is typically what I see happen with the Goo, is they have this kind of pretty solid early to mid-game. Actually, an attack here on the back by Striders coming in and starting to take out some of Vorp's harvesting. There's some Gladius tanks here. We've got a little force back here, so I don't think these Striders are going to do too much. Possibly another Mother going down here. Elfire is trying to preserve it. Of course, we still have the Purger to contend with. Both players getting pretty close to max, although human player actually much closer to a max army, so Vorp doing a pretty good job there. We're down to 4 Mothers, so that's not exactly where Elfire wants to be. He does have, it looks like, enough to produce additional Mothers at this point, but yeah, going up against a maxed out human army, not ideal for Elfire. Teleporter coming out, so a high tier tool for our human player. It is scouted immediately by Elfire, but that's okay because it is still a very, very useful structure, and that just gives Elfire a bit of warning. So decent high-tech army from Vorp. The howitzers are helping minimize the impact of the bastions. Elfire's army is kind of disappearing a little bit in the face of this end-tier human army. I'm glad, by the way, that Vorp mixed these Gladius tanks in. It's just a bit of beef on the top of these units. The Purger is almost there, not quite ready yet. Elfire does not have a lot to defend it with, and the howitzers and this giant army. Elfire says wait 30 seconds, but Vorp is not having any of it. And the Proto-Purger, it does not look like will get completed. And that's all she wrote. Elfire takes the L on this one. Man, I really wanted to see a Goo win. But sadly, that is not the case today.